Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
We are Basic Teen TV, talking about 90s, 2000s teen TV dramas. The show that we've been discussing is Dawson's Creek. We are deep into season 4, getting into some really juicy parts of Dawson's Creek now.
Juice.
Tonight we're going to talk about episodes 13, 14, and 15. Episode 13 was called Hopeless. So there were three like major story lines in here that we're going to discuss. So what do we want to talk about first?
Let's talk about that double date that Joey got blackmailed into going on.
Right. So Joey gets blackmailed by Mrs. Valentine, her manager, to go on a double date with her son, Drew, who's taking out this girl, Anna.
Anna's like the rich daughter of one of the
board members.
Yeah, something like that. And Joey has to do this double date in order to get a long weekend off so that she can go on a senior trip, which is in the next episode. I don't understand why Mrs. Valentine gives a fuck about Drew going on a double date with this woman. I don't understand the point
Or why
of it.
she thought Joey and Pacey would like improve.
Yeah, she said they were the perfect couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of it made sense.
It didn't make sense.
It was just a mechanism to get the four of them out together, because otherwise Joey and Pacey would not agree to hang out with these two people. And I don't even understand the point of that whole date other than Drew was a fucking douchebag.
And that girl, Anna, we come to find out that she basically slept with Drew, like a one-night stand situation. And she thought that by sleeping with Drew, that would make him like her. And I was like, no.
Yeah, so he was like an asshole to her. Like
the whole time. And she's like letting it all slide.
Yeah, like, she's a little ditzy and like she knew it. But he like made some comment halfway through. He's like, Pacey, tell me why it is that in order to get women to give it up, the dumb girls need to tell you that they're smart and the pretty girls need to tell you that they're no.
He said you have to the smart girls need to hear that they're beautiful and the hot girls need to hear that they're smart.
Right. Oh, and then she was like, this is all my fault, because he was just like being so mean to her.
So mean.
Like super fucking overtly mean. And then Joey was like, what is your fucking problem? And then this girl was like, oh, this is all my fault. I never should have slept with them. And they were all like, yeah, duh. But also we didn't realize that you did. So now Drew's behavior is extra douchey because they thought he was just being an asshole, but now he's being an asshole to a woman that he slept with. And they were like, what's your fucking problem? And then he's just like, he like magically opens up to Joey and is like, I'm just bad at women because I went to an all boys high school or boarding school or some shit like that, and I don't know how, and so like all I know how to do is bang and like tease. Like,
this is what I wrote down what he said. Pretty much all I know how to do with women is pick on them or sleep with them. And after he said that, I was like, well, welcome to the fucking world. Like, this is their first time experiencing someone, a boy who acts like this. But they all act like this.
Yeah.
They're all going to experience more of this in adulthood.
If I were her, no, I mean, I'm talking as I am now, an adult woman. Like, I don't think I would ever act the way she acted as far as like taking his shit. I would have like definitely talked back to him and not like run away crying.
Well, this is a teenage girl and she likes him and she wants him to like her back, so she's trying to figure out.
I mean, she also kind of said
trying to figure out how to make that happen.
She also kind of said that too. She's like, I thought if I slept with him, he would like me. Like, that was her rationale.
He does like her. That's the thing. He just doesn't know how to not be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, that's his way of showing that he likes her, is by doubling down on being a prickhole.
Which actually I kind of get. I pick on, historically, men I've dated, boys I liked in school. I would always sort of like pick on them.
Yeah.
That's how I show that I care.
It's his way of flirting, but it's not even it's not a cute picking. He's
being really mean.
Yeah, he's being like verbally abusive.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if I had slept with a guy, that's how he was treating me the following day, I'd be like, bye. no doubt I would have reacted differently in high school. I mean, I didn't
understand that whole aspect of the episode because we find out that they banged and Drew is being an asshole to her. And then suddenly at the end of the episode, he's like, I'd love nothing more than to go on another date with you. And suddenly after his talk with Joey, he
I feel like it was a very
did a 180.
I feel like it was a very poor attempt at trying to give Drew some dimension.
Yeah. And
it just didn't even make sense to me. I didn't understand when that transition happened.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was sitting with Joey talking about how he's bad with girls and he doesn't know how to act with them. And this is what he knows how to do is be an asshole. And Joey's like, well, you're not doing that now. You're being honest and open and blah, 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 blah.
Great impression.
Thank you.
And he just suddenly decided, she confronted him about it. And then he just suddenly decided to be vulnerable with Joey. And then she was like, well, don't do that. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then everything's
miraculously.
Fixed. Yeah. Then all of a sudden his behavior takes a 180. I'm like, oh, if only it was that easy. You could just tell men how to behave and then they would behave that way. That's because that's how it works, right?
Exactly. That's how it's worked for me. That's why I'm single.
Yeah. Me too.
I mean, in general, overall, just, kind of confused by the whole double date storyline. It was, in my opinion, very weak.
And then I think we were also supposed to feel something.
Not interesting.
We were supposed to feel like Pacey was hitting on this chick at some point. And then we were supposed to feel like Joey was getting jealous and that they maybe had sex at some point.
That who had sex at some point?
We were supposed to feel like maybe because Drew said something like Pacey and the rich chick. What's her name?
Anna.
Like Pacey and Anna had an undeniable chemistry. And Drew said something like, you only get that if you've banged.
So he thought that he was going to be able to convince Joey that at some point...
He was trying to stir up some shit. But I was like, are we supposed to... What is the takeaway of all of this? Are we supposed to be like...
Well, like I said,
Pacey and Anna boned?
I think, like I said, I think that it was just a really poor attempt at showing some dimension with Drew. Drew's not just an asshole douchebag. He has feelings and he's sensitive and he's damaged. Yeah, he's really damaged, Yeah. So let's move on to Dawson meets Gretchen's friends. So Dawson's really nervous about meeting Gretchen's friends. Her friends are in town. They're going to go to some club.
They're college age.
They're college age women. How old is Gretchen?
I'm guessing 21 because they went out to the bars and the club.
Okay.
And they were able to drink.
Maybe I misheard. Gretchen says something like, you're only 3 years younger than me. That's not much of an age difference. And Dawson has already said that he's 17. I'm like, well, that means Gretchen's 20. And yet they go to this club and she can drink and he is scarlet letter type of situation, under 21 stamp, big and bright on his hand. I'm like, well, so she's actually 4 years older than him. I was really confused by the math. That's all that I wanted to say about that.
Maybe he's getting ready to turn 18 and she just turned 21. So there's really 3 years and 2 months difference between them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, when I kind of I was like, I mean, as you get older, that's not a big deal. But if she's 20 or 21 and he's 17, I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I thought that this whole fucking time.
She also looks and the actress I think is actually whatever age it is that she's portraying, but she's got that kind of face where she looks like she's 35.
Yeah, and she also has those huge tatas.
This is the first time. This is the first episode where I've noticed Gretchen's boobs when she's about to leave the house and she's wearing that super tight sweater that shows her midriff or whatever, and Pacey's like, you can't wear that, that's the first time I noticed her boobs. I'm like, wow, she does have big boobs.
I noticed it from the beginning when she showed up in the hardware store. And I was like,
the very first scene with her,
Tits McGee that just walked into the hardware store.
I know both of you noticed her boobs. I did not notice her boobs, but I noticed them in this episode. I was like, whoa, she does have big boobs, really big boobs.
They're huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that about her and Dawson the whole time. I was like, when I was in college, the last thing I would want to do was date someone in high school, even if it's their senior year of high school.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me. When I was 18, a senior in high school, I dated a 21-year-old. And our relationship did not last very long. And one of the reasons why, from my perspective, was that he kept bringing up our age difference. As a 21-year-old, he tried to tell me about life. And even at 18, I knew that I didn't know shit about life, but I knew that he didn't know much more than me. And so it annoyed the shit out of me.
I would have been too intimidated to date someone in college when I was in high school.
He was cute and he liked me. I was like, okay. So Dawson doesn't really have a lot of fun. Oh, I want to point out at the club, they're talking about going to this club to watch some...
Club. They're going to the club in Capeside.
To listen to some music.
It was like a perfectly refined jazz evening at the club.
Yes, that's what I was like so confused about. I'm like, what kind of club is this and who was in charge of booking?
And Dawson's mom was all fucking up in arms because, of course, Gretchen and the crew come to Dawson's parents' house to pick him up.
I mean, that was Dawson's first mistake. He should have been like, I'll meet you
at the club. Don't
bring your 22-year-old girlfriends to my house. Because they walk in and they're like, oh, this is a nice house. Do you rent? And
they
he's
said,
like,
is it a rental?
Yeah. And he's like, no, I live here with my parents because I'm fucking 17.
Yeah. And then his mom comes down the stairs and she's like, excuse me, where are you going? And he's like, Ma, I'm trying to go to the club for a nice evening of relaxing jazz.
Like, I'm going to the club with these hoes. And she's like, no, you're not.
And she's like, well, the curfew is 1 a.m. And he's like, well, this is the first fucking time I've ever had a curfew, Mom. He like freaks out.
I mean, she was being a bitch.
She was.
I mean, Dawson kind of handled it well. He's like, ladies, do you mind? I'll meet you on the porch. And then he's like, what the fuck, Mom? What's your problem?
Why are you being such a bitch tonight? Fuck you and that baby. Cool.
And then he
Dawson
storms out.
Yeah.
And goes to the club. With
to the club with his under 21 hand stamp.
I mean, he has a horrible time because he feels insecure the whole time because they're out and he can't drink. And he's got that it's a big ass stamp on his hand.
And it says under 21.
Right. But then the girls proceed to like Muppet through the evening talking about like the guys that they've dated and like their loser list and all this stuff. And I'm like, ladies, keep that conversation between yous. You don't talk about that in front of your friend's new boyfriend.
That is reserved for actual girls' night. And I made a little note that watching all the girls muppin and Dawson is like the only guy that's there. It sort of reminds me of like when we hang out and Ben's
and
there.
Ben's around.
He's the only dude and you guys sure as shit don't mention all the people that I've had around or people that I've slept with.
No.
You don't do that. It's in poor taste.
I mean, we get a little looser because you've been with Ben for a long time, so we feel free to like talk about our vaginas,
and periods and whatever.
Yeah, but we're not gonna bring up your exes in front of Ben. Like, ew. The girls were being rude. I would have been uncomfortable too. No wonder he was like, I'm going home, and they were like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
They were so basic too, because then they leave the club and they're like,
not the club, the club.
The club.
They leave the club and then they're like, oh, you know what we need right now? Like beer and French fries. And then they're like, I forget the name of the bar, whatever, but they're all like shouted at the same time.
Yeah.
They're like woo girls.
They're like, McGregor's. And then Dawson's like, well, I can't go to McGregor's because I have this stamp on my hand. And then they were like, oh. And then he's like, and then they all just stare at each other awkwardly. And then he's like, I guess I'll go home. And they're like, okay, bye.
Bye. Bye, girl. Bye.
Why is that getting you? I don't know, because they just And then Dawson was the one that like felt bad and guilty the whole time. And I'm like, they were being such little bitches. So he goes home and his mom's waiting up for him and they have like a little talk. And she was like, I'm sorry, I was being such a bitch. And he was like, it's okay, Mom, you were right. And then Tits McGee shows up,
Gretchen,
10 minutes later, and she was like, I'm sorry, I felt really bad, but I think she apologized for the wrong reasons. Like, she apologized for, like, not leaving with him. And I'm like, no, what you should be apologizing for is, like, all the shit that was said in front of you.
Talking about all the penises that you've had inside of you.
And then
before you met Dawson, in front of Dawson.
Right.
Meanwhile, Dawson's penis has not been inside of Gretchen yet.
No.
So very uncomfortable for him.
And then Dawson's mom, in like a baller move, comes up and is like, good night, Gretchen. I don't know what happened tonight, but I hope that Dawson doesn't get on your list.
Yeah, I wrote down exactly what she said, actually. We all three of us have the same takeaways from these episodes.
Yeah.
Gretchen, I don't know what happened tonight, but I hope we both agree that Dawson will never be number 7 on any list.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah, and then she just trots up the stairs in a little nightgown, goes to bed. I'm like, boo.
I actually didn't like that.
I didn't either.
I was like, bitch, you already were trying to cock block early on in the night. Like, let your son go out, come home whenever he wants, figure it out. All he did was watch some jazz at the club. He came home early. Like, just go upstairs, stop meddling.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's too old for you to be meddling in his affairs.
Yeah, it left an awkward taste in my mouth. I'm like, ew.
And also, if she had this talk with her son and he's like, Mom, this thing happened tonight. It embarrassed me. It made me feel bad. That's a private conversation for them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to like confide in your parent if, you had like a weird night with your college age girlfriend. Not just feel like she's gonna blab everything,
right? Because now Gretchen knows that Dawson came running home to his mommy and was like, Mom,
yeah, it makes it so much worse.
This is what happened tonight and I didn't like it. And then she's like, well, I'll fucking say something to that bitch.
She's like Mama Bear coming up and protecting her cub.
Ugh. I mean, we've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it through the next couple of episodes. This whole town, they're all assholes. It's an entire town of assholes.
Yeah. No one knows how to act. Is this what the early 2000s were? Were we all
Was I an asshole? Maybe I was an asshole. Maybe it's like this is where mass holes comes from, because they're supposed to be in New
Massachusetts.
Yeah. So maybe they're like, well, we better make them all assholes because they're in Massachusetts. Sorry, Massachusetts. You're not all assholes.
All of our Massachusetts listeners.
Do we have any Massachusetts?
Well, we have one, Jen. Jen's from Mass.
Oh, is she?
Jen,
Springfield, Mass.
This goes out to Jen. We're sorry.
You're not an asshole, but everybody else in your state is.
All right. So moving on.
I like how we can directly speak to our followers because we have two.
Our follower.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen, for hanging in.
We could like have conversations with our followers.
Does Jen still even listen?
I don't think so.
All right. All right. Moving on to the third point that we're going to talk about in episode 13. Jack. I don't know. This storyline was also kind of weak in my opinion, but that guy Toby, how do we describe Toby?
He's the other gay kid.
He's the other gay kid in town. He was a part of that like young gay teen alliance group, and Jen's been trying to get Jack and Toby to hook up for forever, and Jack's always said no, and Jen's like, come on, he's cute, blah blah blah, whatever. And Toby thought that his in with Jack would be to be mean to him or be like judgmental or something.
Yeah, another guy who's like, oh, I like you, so I'll be the worst human I can possibly be to you, and that's gonna draw you towards me. And then Jack's like, no. Thanks. No, I'm not interested.
Not interested.
No.
Yeah. So Toby's idea this time is to be nice.
Toby's thirsty.
On Jen's advice, like the way to get to know Jack is to be nice to him, like be his friend. And so Toby's like, okay, I'll try that. And he invites Jack. Well, he shows up to Jack's house, right? Jack's coming back,
waiting outside.
Jack's coming back from a run, and Toby's like standing there outside his front door. And
Which I don't know about you guys. I love the both of you. You're my very close friends. Don't ever be waiting for me outside of my apartment without a heads up. I don't like drop-ins. Don't fucking do it. And I like you guys.
I know, but we're in the age of cell phones. So if I wanted to drop in, I'd be like, hey, Cindy.
At least page me first.
Yeah.
Before you
I would
show
text
up.
you and be like, hey, you home? Can I come by?
Right.
I wouldn't just lay on your buzzer. And you're like, oh my God, who is it?
And then I hide under the bed. We're not friends anymore if you ever do that.
note taken. 10-4, message received.
Yeah, no, if I come home and one of you's standing outside of my building, I'm going to be like, oh my God, what's wrong?
You would assume that like my apartment burned down.
Yeah,
or
I'm like,
something.
what happened? Did you get mugged? Did you get robbed? Like, what? Why are you here?
Yeah. Like it must have been a catastrophe that I just lived through.
Yeah, so Toby is just standing outside of Jack's house, and Jack's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I thought you might be interested in helping me with this after school program, like tutoring some kids. And Jack's like, I don't know. But he relents. He agrees to it, and he shows up and he starts tutoring this young kid.
This is where I'm going to jump in. I had a big problem with this. In all of Dawson's Creek, there are like 3 black people that have speaking roles. The principal, the old principal, his daughter. I think that's it.
And now this young
And
kid.
now the third one is a young kid with a learning disability. Like he can't read. He needs tutoring. And the way they make this kid act, they're making him speak weird. Wasn't it just like a reading thing? Like he couldn't read?
I didn't think that this was for kids with disabilities. I just thought it was kids who needed some extra tutoring.
But they made him speak like he had a disability or something.
Yeah, like he had like a speech impediment or a lisp or something. But yeah, it was just supposed to be like reading comprehension and spelling.
Of all the casting that they're doing for this fucking show, why did they choose a black kid for this role?
I mean, for the same reason when they did the senior prank episode and they called 5 guys to the office to question them about this prank, which was Dawson, Pacey, Jack, and 2 random black kids that we never saw again, because that's the idea. They're like, oh, well, it's probably these assholes or the black kids.
Yeah.
And
everyone else is white.
yeah.
Every other kid that goes to fucking Capeside High or whatever the fuck their high school is, it just it stood out, and it bothered me.
Rightfully so. We agree with you.
I mean, it was the 90s. It was all the 90s was gross.
But it's like,
I mean, I think Cindy's point is that it's more of a comment on the writing, the producing,
and the people who are
casting.
writing and casting, and they're
Yeah.
like, who's troubled? Okay, who has reading comprehension issues, and who causes trouble?
Who are the kids that are going to need the most help? It's going to be the kids of color, you know.
And it's just so crazy that no one was like, I mean, in the writer's room and all the producers and stuff, there wasn't one person who was like, this might read wrong, considering everyone
probably
else in the show is white all the time.
Not that any of us know, but maybe we can assume that the writers and producers are also all white.
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna say
it
yes on that.
wasn't. Yeah. As much as it was an issue back then as it is now, I don't know. Maybe we just weren't in those communities or in those groups where these conversations were happening. Because this is not a new issue, even back then. You know what I'm saying? Like where people of color weren't having their voices heard.
Oh yeah.
Or weren't having representation or anything like that. Like this is.
It's almost,
And I'll be honest. I was not a part of those communities. I or even close to understanding those issues that were going on, that are still going on.
Yeah. It's just gross because it's almost worse to make the choice to cast like a black kid in that role versus a white kid. I don't know. It almost feels worse to me than, because you're not like being diverse and inclusive by making that choice. You might as well
they're still making them other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dawson's Creek.
I mean, we've said it before that this show is a pretty terrible, awful show. Like, it's just not
it's
anything.
of its time, though.
Yeah, I mean,
just
even now that we're into season 4, but the whole premise was one of my thoughts and what I was hoping to be one of the points of this podcast, maybe for this particular show, was that I wanted to know, like, if this show still held up today.
No.
And it doesn't. Yeah.
But also, it's been 20 years. Not many things hold up, especially shows that try to hit on topical issues.
Well, what's interesting about this point that you're bringing up is, like, I don't even think it was considered an issue when they were casting this. When they were casting the role for this child, this student, when they were writing the script, it wasn't in the forefront of their minds.
Right.
They weren't thinking that way. I don't think the writers and the producers were thinking that way.
You mean like if this is
like
a racist casting choice?
Right. Yeah. Like, is it a bad move for us to put a black kid in this role
when there are no other ones?
Because it's going to make him the other, the less than.
Yeah. Yes. But they were thinking something. It was a choice.
Yeah, no, they were thinking we need to cast a kid who's believable as being underprivileged, undereducated,
poor, right.
Which is a black kid,
which is going to be a black kid,
and like one that needs high school kids to tutor him for free,
guidance,
right? Black kid, because rich white kids
guidance from a white kid,
can afford like real tutors and not volunteer gay guys.
It's fucking gross.
It's all gross.
Yeah.
So following this, what's the kid's name? The other gay guy?
Toby.
Yeah. So he's really impressed by Jack's like skills to get this kid to like.
And Jack was like, "I'm still all buzzed from it."
Yeah,
because he got the kid all excited about.
Yeah, I mean, he did do a good thing. He like tricked the kid into being excited about spelling, and and so then Toby tricks Jack into going out on a date with him by being like, "Hey, let's just go get a coffee.
I'm meeting up with some friends."
Yeah, and then they get there, and then Jack's like, "No, he didn't tell him that. He was like, oh, you didn't tell me that your friends were going to be here."
No, he did. He said, "I'm meeting up with some friends."
Oh.
Yeah, Jack knew there were going to be other people there. He just didn't know that the other people was a couple.
Oh, okay. So Jack got tricked into going on a double date,
right? And then Jack was like,
I mean, he was kind of. A dick
I felt like he was a little oversensitive about it.
Yeah, he's like, you didn't tell me they were going to be a couple. I'm like, well,
they're a friend couple.
Yeah, they're my friends. They just happen to bang each other, but they're friends. But they're both my friends.
Yeah,
like,
I felt Jack was a little oversensitive, overreacted a little bit.
And he was kind of a dick about the whole thing. He was like, "What do you like me, Toby?" And Toby was like, "Yeah."
And he's like, "Yeah, I just thought that if we were friends and I was nice to you and we hung out, that you might start to like me again." And Jack was like, "Fuck you." And I'm like, "Oh, poor Toby.
It's never going to happen."
Trying to get this guy, just to get him to be like, get to know him, because that's how relationships start. You get to know each other.
Yeah, you go out for coffee.
Yeah, but that Jack was like offended that he got like,
and he's like
hoodwinked into spending time with this man. Not interested.
Yeah, and Jack was like, "I guess we can both still tutor. We shouldn't be like telling each other not to do things like that, but I'll see you next Saturday." And then he storms out of the restaurant.
Poor Toby.
At least Jack was upfront about it. He didn't beat around the bush. He didn't give him a bunch of mixed signals or ghost on him. He was just like, "It ain't happening. Go fuck yourself. Bye." So Toby knows where he stands.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear.
Yeah. So the episode ends with, so this whole time we haven't really touched on this because it wasn't that big of a part of this episode, but Dawson's been finishing up his documentary with Mr. Brooks. He's just been spending some time over at his house finishing things up. And so the episode ends with Dawson coming back over to Mr. Brooks's house, and he finds Mr. Brooks like lying on the middle of his floor. And I immediately thought like, oh, Mr. Brooks died.
Yeah, we were led to believe that he was dead.
But that's how the episode ends. And then we go into episode 14, which is called A Winter's Tale, which is the senior ski trip. This is where all the juice is.
Oh yeah, there's so much
episode.
So much juice in this, and
so much juice in this episode. And guest stars out the wazoo.
So it's Dawson's not going on this trip. I think because of Mr. Brooks and because his girlfriend is like 38, and
well, Dawson doesn't go on the trip because Mr. Brooks hasn't died, but he's gone into a coma and now he's in the hospital.
Oh, and he's gone into a coma because he was not taking his medicine. He was hoarding it. And he took all the pills at once. He OD'd on his pills, and that's why he's in a coma.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dawson stayed behind to deal with that.
Oh, so I guess another important thing to point out in the previous episode, in episode 13, is that Mr. Brooks Mr. Brooks tricked Dawson into basically signing a power of attorney. They called it something else in the episode, but it was a
healthcare proxy.
Healthcare proxy. Which, I mean, from the way that they have described it in episode 14, to me sounded like a power of attorney that Dawson has the ultimate final decision and when to pull the plug on Mr. Brooks.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this storyline first.
I thought Dawson was really stupid to sign that piece of legally binding document without reading it.
Right. So in the last episode, Mr. Brooks is like, here, just sign this. It just means that
you're going to help me pick up my prescriptions.
Yeah, you're going to go to the drugstore for me and get my prescriptions. And he's like, oh, okay.
And that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, Dawson, don't sign that without reading it. Have your parents look it over, because what you're signing there is going to be, you're going to be Mr. Brooks's ultimate decider on life.
So Mr. Brooks is in a coma. They don't think he's going to wake up. At some point, him and Grams are there visiting him at the hospital, and they're like, oh my God, it's so sad. And then Dawson goes to leave, and a doctor comes running after him and being like, hey, we need to talk. The doctor is Tony Hale. AKA Buster from Arrested Development, although he does not enter that role until 2 years after this show. But when I saw him, because in this role he was trying to
he's like a serious doctor.
Yeah, he's like a serious doctor, and he's trying to portray like a serious thing. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you. I think you should call your parents. And I'm like, who? Buster. Ed. But so Buster tells, so Dawson calls his parents, and Buster tells Grams and Dawson and his parents that he signed this healthcare proxy. So not only does that grant him the ability to go pick up Mr. Brooks's prescriptions from the pharmacy, but it also means that he has to decide whether Mr. Brooks lives or dies. Basically, he's the one that decides whether
or not to pull the plug.
Which I don't even know. And his parents argue this point. They're like, how can you let a teenage boy make that decision? And I'm like, and then the doctor's like, well, it's the law. And I'm like, but is it though? Can a 17-year-old be given that power? Probably not.
I don't think so. He's a child.
Can't sign over to a 5-year-old.
If you can't buy cigarettes, then you can't just make the decision whether to pull the plug or not.
Yeah, you can't vote. You can't vote for president. You can't decide. You can't vote whether to pull the plug or not on some poor old man.
Yeah, if you're still driving with the learners.
If we have any
the list can go on and on.
If we have any listeners out there who are lawyers,
yeah, I want to know.
But this goes back to something you were saying and have been saying. The kids run Capeside. I made a note because I was like, oh my God, this is the most obvious example of the kids calling all the shots.
Yeah, the kids are in charge. So it's almost like Dawson doesn't...
Of life and death
He doesn't want to turn 18, because once you turn 18, you age out of being in control.
In Capeside,
Of being like a fucking mobster in the town and just running everything. But regardless of whether this is plausible or not, it's the case for this. So he has to make that decision. And he doesn't know what to do.
And that's basically his whole struggle throughout this entire episode.
Right. So at some point, Mr. Brooks's old best friend that he had mentioned in some other previous episodes, and they had some falling out.
Right. Well, this best friend is the guy who ran off with Mr. Brooks's girlfriend.
It's the parallel to Dawson and Pacey and Joey.
Right, yeah. And the man who plays Mr. Brooks's friend is, I can't believe they fucking landed this guy, because it's a big deal, in my opinion. Andy fucking Griffith.
I mean, I said when he walked in, I was like, Andy Griffith. Oh my God.
And when he walked in and I saw it, I was like, that guy.
Yeah,
That's how I.
Who is that?
She doesn't know who he is.
No, I had to. I recognized his face. I'm like, oh my God, I know this actor is a big deal, but I can't think of his name right now. I had to look him up too, because I was like, who is this guy? I know he's such a big name. And I had to look him up.
I know what he looked
I
like
feel really
in his
old.
heyday.
I feel really old right now.
But
You
not
guys,
as an old man.
did you watch the Andy Griffith show when you were
Yes.
kids?
My mom.
No, it wasn't.
loves
It
that
wasn't
show.
like I didn't know who he was. I knew him from old episodes. It was more of just like a brain fart. Like
Well,
I
also
couldn't think of his name.
He was really old in that episode, and I know Andy Griffith in my head.
From the Andy
From
Griffith
the
show.
Andy Griffith show.
What was the,
yeah.
what was the lawyer show that he was on? Matlock. He was Matlock
right.
in like the 80s. So he's Andy Griffith
Mm-hmm.
in the 60s. Okay, so
but
Andy Griffith
Yeah, Andy Griffith.
is on Dawson's fucking Creek.
I feel like that's a big name for Dawson's Creek to get.
But Dawson's Creek was a big show for the time period.
And Andy Griffith was on screen for a total of 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And he walks in the room and Dawson's like asleep in a chair, and Dawson wakes up. He like, Andy Griffith's like, oh, it looks like you've seen a ghost. And I fully expected Dawson to be like, oh my God, you're Andy Griffith. But he was like, oh my God, and he's like, yeah, I'm the friend. And he's like,
I'm that guy.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, you must be his grandson. And he's like, no, I'm just a friend. And then he was like, oh, well then fuck off. And then he was like, oh, well, the old codger just hung on long enough for me to come say goodbye. And so then he's like, okay, goodbye. And then he leaves. And then Dawson's like, I guess I can pull the plug now because Andy Griffith came and went. And that's what he does.
Yep.
And then Mr. Brooks is no longer.
I want to touch on something quickly. As a little kid, I always had a problem with scenes where you see a dead body, whether it be like a funeral scene. And I got a little triggered when we saw Mr. Brooks laying in there after he flatlined. After Dawson pulled the plug and they let the heart monitor thing be like beep, beep, beep. And then what's his name from Arrested
Tony
Development turned off the monitor, and then it just like shows Mr. Brooks's dead body, and I sort of started to like flinch, because as a little kid I hated any scene with a dead body, because I was like waiting for them to be like rah, like the dead body would be like rah, and then scare the shit out of me. And I've had problems with it, I guess, to this day, because I got triggered.
You thought that this episode of Dawson's Creek was going to turn into a zombie movie?
Yeah. But as a little kid, I was so afraid of dead bodies for that reason. And I'd always like, my eyes would start to like squint, and I'd get all tensed up.
What
like,
did your parents let you watch when you were a little kid?
I didn't watch anything scary for that reason, because I couldn't even watch a normal show that wasn't a horror show with a dead body, because I was too afraid of reanimation.
Why though? Like, what? Dude, you must have been exposed to that idea at some point.
Well, I was never exposed to zombies in real life. I don't know why I had this hang up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You must have watched a zombie thing as a little kid. Maybe you've blocked it out, and it's
Maybe
traumatized you to any other
I do know
portrayal of death.
Maybe
That's not going to turn into a zombie situation,
There
because
was this-
most of them don't.
There was this one scene in the original Halloween movie that my dad did make me watch, and I didn't want to watch it because I was afraid of everything as a little kid. And he like forced me to watch it, and he turned off all the lights in the house, and I wanted to like hang out in my bedroom, but then I was too afraid to hang out in my bedroom because everyone else in the house was in the living room with the lights off watching Halloween. And there's this one scene where Michael Myers gets stabbed, like what's her name, the lead?
I've never seen it.
I don't know.
Oh, guys, come on. She's in everything. Whatever. She stabs Michael Myers, and he's like laying on the living room floor, and then the music kicks in, and it's like, bleep, and then it's like, dunk, 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 dunk. And she's like hiding behind the couch, and he's dead behind on the other side of the couch. And all of a sudden he just like sits up. Maybe that moment.
I'm gonna say it's that.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that you've just had a
You
breakthrough.
figured it out.
You just had a breakthrough.
Wow, what a great therapy session.
And maybe now that you know, you can be less afraid of like dramas that portray death where the dead person's not going to get up. They're dead.
But what if they're not though?
No, they're dead. They're dead. That's
But I hear that music.
okay. We're
that
gonna blame your dad for letting you or forcing you, tricking you into watching that movie when you were too
We
young.
can blame him for everything, really.
Yeah, okay.
All right, can we get to the juicy part of this episode?
Oh, okay. All right. So what's been happening between Joey and Pacey is at some point they had some conversation, maybe it was in the last episode.
It was in last episode.
Yeah, about sex and how they haven't had it yet.
And Pacey's getting really impatient. It's
been 8 months.
It's been 9 months.
And Joey's like real uptight about it. And she's like, I need the first time to be special and I need it to be the right choice.
And she's like, I'm scared. And he was like, I'm scared too.
Yeah. And like, but she's just being like really, 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 really uptight about it. And I'm like, God, you're putting so much pressure on yourself. And when you finally do it, you're going to be like, eh.
You're going to be disappointed.
You're going to be so disappointed. Do we have to go back into my first time experience again?
Nobody's fucking first time is good. It's not going to be.
No.
And if you're worried, yeah. So she's just being just a real.
And she found someone that she trusts. So just try it out.
Yeah, just do it. And if it's disappointing, don't worry. There'll be plenty more men to disappoint you later in life.
Well, and then I mean,
it's endless.
Even not talking about other men who are going to disappoint her later in life. It's just like it's not like you're going to have sex with Pacey once and you're not going to do it again.
Right.
It's you're going to do it again and it's going to get better.
Yeah. You figure out what you're doing
as a couple. You figure out what works best.
What goes in what hole.
Yeah, and then you just. Y'all both figure out what you like, what you don't like, and how, it fits together for the both of you, and it's going to get better.
But she gets so annoying with it to the degree that anytime anyone around her mentions the word sex, she starts to get weird with Pacey.
Yeah, she gets aggro with Pacey. Like
when someone else says the word.
Like it's his fault. Like she'll give him that look, that like fucking bitch face, and he's like, can we just go on this trip and have a good time? And she's like, hell fucking no. I'm gonna make this trip a living nightmare. And he's like, okay.
Great.
All right.
All right, babe.
So it's Pacey and Joey, and then Jen and Jack, and then Drew, Valentine, and Anna doesn't go to their school, right?
Yeah, he sneaks her onto the bus somehow.
Yeah, so she like pretends to be another student to like go on this trip. And they get there, and like the principal, who is like fucking done with his life.
I think that's their English teacher.
Oh, okay, whoever he is.
The one chaperone.
Yeah. There's like one chaperone for like 80 horny kids, and he's just like, this other student is going to give out the room keys, and you guys have to take a room with someone of the same gender as you. Okay. And then
no access to the mini fridge.
Yeah. And like, we've taken away the mini bar keys. Okay, have at it. And then he walks away. So then Drew goes up to this like dweeby kid that's got a bucket of keys and is like, okay, this key is for
Joey and Pacey. This key's for Jen and Jack. This is for me and Anna. And all right, have fun passing out the rest.
And then he's like, bye. So like, that's how they managed to get the weave the narrative that the core group of people like get to like
cohabitate. But in what world? Okay, so sorry. They essentially have access to the entire ski lodge. And it seems like there's no one else in the ski lodge but the high school kids. Like they've rented out the entire ski lodge for the weekend. And now the kids are in control of fucking everything. The kids are handing out the keys to the rooms and they're like, you guys are in this room, you guys are in this room, and they're all drinking from the mini bar, and it's like, where are the adults?
There were none. There was the
one teacher. That's all you need.
And he was like, what
for the entire ski lodge?
He drew the short straw and he had to do this, and he was like, I don't want to fucking do that. He's like, I'm gonna retire next year, I don't give a fuck. And he just like checked out, and so then the kids just ran amok for the weekend.
And they
Basically.
like own the lodge.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's not how my senior trips went. We didn't have any fucking chaperones. It was
Yeah, I
senior year. You just went on a
senior
trip.
year was different. This was a school function.
They just called it a senior ski trip.
Yeah.
I was surprised that I even saw a chaperone there, because I was like, oh, like this is what New Englanders do. They don't have like a senior class trip at the end of the year. They have a senior class trip during the winter time, and it will be a free for all because there's not going to be any parents or chaperones there. That's what I thought this was going to be. I wasn't expecting at all to see a teacher there.
I guess I was confused about what it was in the first place.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more like spring break where everybody
Right.
just did their own trip.
Yeah,
you
like
don't go with the school.
Yeah,
you,
right.
you plan your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, the school
Well,
doesn't.
And you don't have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what my senior class trip was. We called it the senior class trip because it was the senior class, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't chaperoned. You booked your own flights. You booked your own hotels. Like,
Yeah, that's what we went to Ocean City on spring break. I boned
Are you
on spring
boned?
break.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, mine was at the end of the year. Mine was at the end of the year after we had officially had we graduated? I think so. But yeah, it wasn't school sanctioned or school sponsored, but yet somehow we got some sort of trip deal. So like the entire senior class, we were all in one hotel, but we were actually there with like 5 other high schools. So it was really just like a week shit show. But yeah, no parents, no teachers. Like
Who planned all this?
I don't even remember like how it happened. But it's just-
1-800 Red Ribbon.
yeah, right. Yeah. But like it was organized so much so that, like I said, we had a block of hotels. So we were all entire class with like I said, like 5 other high schools. We're all in one hotel together. When we landed, we got on a party bus. So it was all of us high school kids on a party bus. And as soon as we got on that party bus, they handed us beers.
It must have been like a
And-
handful of cool parents that put it together.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't remember anything except that.
And if so, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we're all like herded into this huge conference room, and they kind of tell us the rules. But yeah, and we just like ran them. And we were in Cancun, Mexico.
What in the fuck? I went to Ocean City, Maryland.
I didn't have a senior trip. If this was a thing that happened in my high school, I was not cool enough to be invited.
Yeah, it wasn't senior trip. It was just spring break that everyone does.
And what's also kind of funny is that like, so Drew Valentine like
Was there
sneaks
at your
no
senior trip in Cancun?
similar to Drew Valentine sneaking in Anna on this senior ski trip. Me and my friends. So it was just like me and like, I had a core group of girlfriends in high school. We had befriended like a junior. And we snuck her onto our senior class trip. Like she was that much of a badass. Like we just loved her. She was hilarious. She had a good time. She could drink. Like she just could party and hang with us.
Wait, your parents, did they pay for this trip? And they were
My
okay?
parents paid for this
and
trip.
they were okay with you as an 18-year-old to go to Mexico by yourself?
I wasn't by myself. I was with my friends.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah. I'm surprised because I thought your parents were pretty
Pretty
strict.
I will say this is that my older brothers were quote unquote a handful. And so I think they were pretty easy on me. Like I was a good kid compared to my older brothers. So they're like, we'll cut her some slack.
Yeah, she's not going to get pregnant on that trip or nothing.
She's the first.
Yeah.
She's the first one of our children to go to college. So we'll let her go on this
And you probably were like,
senior class
Mom,
trip.
Dad, there's this really cool cultural trip that I want to go on with my girlfriend.
We're going to go to a lot of museums and we're going
Yeah.
to learn about. I'm Mexican. I want to go learn about Mexico.
Get my heritage.
But I had a lot of fun.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Probably more fun than I had in down the ocean.
Down the shore.
Down the ocean.
And I never got to go on a senior trip, so
Oh. So this can be we can take a senior trip.
I mean, I think.
Spring break.
All right, let's talk about something else.
All right.
Moving on.
Okay, let's talk about their senior trip because that's why we're here. So yeah, so Joey and Pacey are in a room, and immediately Joey gets all uptight about sex again. Mm-hmm. And
But she starts this conversation too. Because I think Pacey was just chilling in the room.
Yeah, he's just there. He's like, let's go hot tub or whatever. Oh, at some point, Anna comes by and she's in a bikini and like an open hoodie. And she's like, hey guys, just want to remind you that
these are my tits.
Yeah, she's like, I just want to remind you that like there's a hot tub and we're all in it. So you guys should quit being little bitches and come out of your room and get in a hot tub and get wasted with us. And Pacey's like, okay. Or no.
Joey's like immediately annoyed.
Yeah, and she was like, what the fuck? She just showed up half naked and she's like showing you her tits. And Pacey's like, I can't help that at all. I think she just wants us to come to the hot tub. And she's like, everything's about sex and everything's this. And I'm like, God, please.
She's exhausting.
Please just fuck already so we can get this out of the fucking way. This whole episode, she's just such a bitch. So wait, is it then that they get in like a fight?
And yeah, they get in a fight and Pacey leaves. And he's just kind of walking around the ski lodge grounds or whatever. And he runs into Anna and she's like, oh, I didn't think you guys were going to show up. And I don't know what Pacey says, but they get into a conversation and like Anna, like, really confuses the situation and thinks that Pacey is like coming on to her, and she like tries to like kiss him, and I'm like, Anna.
I thought she was into
Drew. I'm like, girl, poor girl. Like, no,
she's dumb as a bag of rocks.
Don't do this. Well, because also she's just kind of like, it's just sex. It's not a big deal. And Pacey's like, no, it is a big deal. He's like, I'm here with someone that I love, and I just want to be with her. Like basically telling like Anna, like, girl, what is wrong? Like, you got some issues.
She does have some issues. What is her life?
Her life is that her whole worth and value is sex, and that's the only way that she knows how to like.
And that's what she kind of explains to Pacey. She's like, I know that my value is how I look, and that I know I'm good with men.
That's her currency.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in any interaction she has with any man that she is remotely not even attracted to, that she like connects with on any level, she's like, oh, okay, so the next step is that we bone?
Is sex, yeah.
And he's like, no, we had a nice conversation and maybe we could connect and be friends or we could support one another. She's like,
huh?
So sex?
So bone?
So we bone? You want me to suck your dick?
So sex now, right?
Yeah, like that's what's happening.
That's the next step. Sex.
Yeah, like, oh, we
like your P in my V.
Yeah, you bought me a coffee.
Obvi.
Sex. You held the door for me. Sex.
That's how men think sometimes, I think. If you like have a nice conversation with a stranger, they're like, she definitely wants me. But there's one scene before we get into where we're going with this, where they all go out to dinner and it's Drew and
Anna.
Cum dumpster Anna.
Damn.
Whoa.
Wow. What have we just been talking about?
No, we're just...
That's what she is. Wow. Drew.
Way harsh, Ty.
CD, cum dumpster. Pacey and Joey are all out to dinner. And, you know, Joey keeps getting all upset because everyone around her is talking about sex. And then cum dumpster is like, okay, everyone pull out their wallets. I want to see
condom check.
Yeah, she's like, I know that every man walks around carrying a condom in his wallet. And they all pull out their wallets and they pull out a condom. Drew has a Magnum and I'm like, okay, sure. Then Pacey refuses to pull out his wallet and he's like, I left it back at the hotel. Back at
the room.
Yeah. And then of course now Joey's upset about that too, because she takes that as he has a condom in his wallet.
Yeah.
Which he does. But I just wanted to make a little note of that for the scenes that are coming.
Right. Yeah, they get outside of the restaurant. She's like, let me see your wallet. I know you have a fucking wallet. And so he's like, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. She's like, see your fucking wallet.
She's a monster in this episode.
So he pulls out his wallet and she like rifles through it. And I'm like, yeah, Joey, go ahead and pull out that smashed fucking condom that's been in his wallet for a year and a half. She pulls out a condom and then
it's not a Magnum. And she's like, eh.
Yeah. And then she's like all
Never
pissed
mind.
off.
Meanwhile, Jen is in in her room with Jack, or Jack's been like out and about, like walking around and stuff, and Jen's been in their room getting drunk. She's broken into the mini bar
because she slipped and fell.
She slipped and she twisted her ankle
twice.
Like when they got out of the bus, she like slipped and fell and hurt her ankle.
Yeah.
And then when they went out to dinner, she like fell and her cracked her skull open.
Can we talk about
that
the
second fall? Dude,
It was like a
cartoon.
Yeah, she was like whoop, and like
whatever stunt person they got to do that fall, I'm like, you're doing too much.
I literally rewound that fall like 5 times because I couldn't stop laughing. I'm picturing it in my head right now, and it's just like cracking me up.
She's lucky she didn't fucking crack her skull open and bleed to death because she was like airborne.
I'm surprised
and they were all
that the stunt double didn't just like do an entire 360 flip because her leg just went like I can't.
But they should have
the most hilarious fall ever.
They should have just had Jen do a simple fall, but they got a whole stunt double to do this like dramatic fucking slip on the ice.
Yeah, and they pull away so you're seeing the shot from like across the street, so they're just in silhouette, and she's like airborne. She like slips on the ice.
Her legs pretty much like almost go over her head. Oh my god, it was hilarious. Oh my! It got me good.
I think the writers just thought it would be funny.
It was funny.
Like they were trying to introduce some camp. I mean, maybe they were trying to lighten the mood because they knew that Joey was being
such an asshole,
such a downer bitch.
So Jen's fallen twice.
So she go back to the room.
She breaks into the mini bar and she's just getting wasted on like mini vodkas.
But that is like what happened when we went on a hike. Melissa twisted her ankle and then she was sipping on vodka in the woods from the pain.
And getting high. I smoked some of your weed.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have to airlift you out of there.
Ease the pain.
That's just what you do when you twist your ankle.
I mean, you were fine. By the time we got to the restaurant, you had a hamburger. You're like, all right, I'm fine now.
Yeah. I told you I didn't hike.
It was my 40th. You were conscripted into hiking.
So Jen's drunk in her room, and Jack shows up, and they start talking, and Jack gets really like emotional, and he says like, I'm just really afraid that I'm not gonna find a guy who I love as much as I love you.
He's drunk too.
He came back and he started drinking as well, and Jen was like, let's just have a night.
Let's just get hammer time in the room together.
Yeah, and then they're sitting in front of the fire, and they're sitting like cross-legged in front of each other, and I couldn't help but think that was weird in the first place. I was like, why are they sitting so close to each other across from the fire?
Yes. Yeah. So now Jack is drunk, and of course he's getting emotional. And you're right. And that's when he says like, I'm just afraid that I'm not going to find a guy who I love as much as I love you. And then I was like, I remember watching this. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, no.
Yeah, but I was like, no. But then I was like, it's not going to go there. And Jen like started crying, and I was like, okay, this is just going to be like a nice friend moment.
As soon as this whole thing started happening, I knew it was going to happen. I knew they weren't just going to let this like not happen.
But so Jen like, she's like, oh, that's so sweet, and she like
kisses his forehead.
Yeah, caresses his face, and then they like stare into each other's eyes, and they go in for a kiss, and I was like, what?
Me too.
And so then it cuts away and it cuts back, and they're like fully like
laying
on top
down
of each other.
Yeah, like making out,
like hardcore.
Jen's clothes are coming off. They're like unbuttoned. Her shirt's unbuttoned.
Yeah, Jack has his shirt off. He's just wearing his little his undershirt tank top thing. And I'm like, oh God, they did it.
But they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
Because
they didn't bone. Jen stopped it.
Yeah, she's like, we shouldn't do this.
And he's like, why?
And
it's like, dude,
Jen's like, because you're gay.
But Jen, I mean, it's commendable for Jen because she's secretly like got a little crush on, and she hasn't been shy about it. It's not even a secret. She's expressed that.
You're right.
Like if he wasn't gay, they'd be like a couple. So she stops it. And then that's that.
Yeah, but that scene was shocking. Watching it happen, watching it unfold. I like kind of liked it in a weird way for some reason, because I was like, oh, they're such good friends. It's so romantic. But then I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you? He's gay. It's never going to work.
Yeah, but a part of me was like, well, what if he's not really gay?
What if he's bi?
Yeah, what if he's bi? What if he really does like Jen? Like, what if the emotional connection overcomes her lack of having a D? I don't know. I mean, this came on the heels of him like rejecting the other dude.
Yeah.
So then he's like, well, if I don't like this guy,
who
guy.
am I gonna like?
Yeah, like I'm gonna end up alone. And I'm like, no, you just need to like move to New York or something. You'll be fine.
Find your people.
You live in like a one homo town. Like you just need to live somewhere else.
Yeah, he's like the token homo in Capeside. He needs to go with his people.
Yeah, if you live somewhere where there's more gay men, then you'll have options, and your option won't be Toby or Jen. Like, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So I think cut back to Joey and Pacey. I think Joey walks up and overhears the conversation with Anna, and where she's like propositioning him, and Pacey's like, "No, I'm here with somebody I love." And then she's like, "Oh, I overheard that, and I love you too." And for once, she's not like, "Oh, it's your fault that she was hitting on you." And so then they go back to the room and they have some kind of heart to heart. And during this time, she had called Dawson and they had like a little chitty chat. And then she would, like she softened a little bit because whenever she talks to Dawson,
Dawson was talking about life and death decisions because, the responsibility was on him to like take someone's life. And Joey was listening to it and she was like, oh, this applies to me too.
No, but it doesn't.
No, because he's talking about killing someone.
Yeah, he's talking about ending.
Talking about killing someone.
He's talking about deciding whether somebody lives or dies, and you're talking about like when to lose your virginity and to who. It's going to happen eventually, and it's going to suck. So just go ahead and do it.
So then they, after that talk, when Joey's like,
well,
this is the reason why I love you, and they go back to the hotel.
She like leads him back to the room
because she ready.
She in charge now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now she's glad that he's got that fucking condom in his goddamn wallet.
And this is how she broaches the topic. She's like standing in front of the mirror in the hotel, and of course the fire's lit. Fire's fucking raging. Pacey comes out from the bathroom and starts brushing her hair, and immediately I was like, bleh. Then she like holds his hand and she's like, hey Pacey, you still have your wallet? And I was like, oh my God. This is how you're going to like initiate this?
He's like, no, I threw my wallet down a fucking ski slope because you were mad at me.
Well, does she ask about the condom? Because like,
well, that shit's implied.
Well, because like the quote that I wrote down is that she says, I want to throw the wrapper away.
Yeah. Well, that comes after. She goes, do you still have your wallet? But implying that the condom's in it and she's ready to get it on. And then he said something, there was a little exchange in between there. And she's like, well, do you still have the condom after that? And then he was like, yeah.
Do you want me to like get rid of it, or do you want me to throw it away? And she's like, I want you to throw the wrapper away.
Fucking
barf. That made me retch. I was like, oh God.
That made me retch.
Yeah. Yeah, but it gets even more kind of gross because like she then talks about like all the ways that she loves Pacey and like remembering the wallet that she wore to prom. I mean, not the wallet. The bracelet that she wore at prom, and that it was his
damn wallet.
The chain wallet that she wore to prom.
I'm tired and tipsy.
Remember those?
I remember those.
I had one.
You had one?
Yeah. She was like the emo girl. She's like the emo girl of our friend group.
Yeah, I had a chain wallet.
Cool. Did you have a condom in your chain wallet?
Yes, I did. I've never actually been with a man who's pulled a condom out of his wallet for us to use. That's never happened.
Yeah, same. It's just always been on the nightstand.
Right. But I've never
what about if they're at your place?
Then
where do they pull it out of? Then you have it.
Then I have one in my nightstand. Like you just have condoms. I have some. They're all expired. My condoms. I need to buy some more.
When I was single, I would only have Magnum condoms in my drawer, and if the Magnum condom didn't fit, if it was too big, then I'm like, you got to get out of here, sweetheart.
Oh my God. imagine the guy being like, okay. Sorry.
Wait, I can really fill it out. I swear to God.
Yeah, he's like, let me just fluff it up a little bit.
And I'm like, you got to go.
Damn.
I love that.
Damn.
I run a tight ship. I know what I like.
Not that tight, apparently. All right, let's get to the goods. We have like 30 seconds left on this episode. So, what happens next?
They bone.
They bone.
They finally.
Finally happens.
Finally. Oh my God.
And the lead up to it was really gross watching them like when
Undressed.
Pacey's shirt came off, I was like, oh God. It's not the first time we've seen him without a shirt on, but he's just like so scrawny and little, and she's like really scrawny and little, and then he's like kissing on her neck, and I was like, how much of this are we gonna have to sit through? Like, I get it. I get what's happening. We don't have to watch it.
We don't watch it. Then it fades to the next episode, which is the next morning.
Mm-hmm. Pacey and Joey are cuddling, and he's like really into the moment, and she gives him this, well, she doesn't give him this face, but she like looks off as if she's upset about that she fucked.
Yeah, well, she's upset.
She's disappointed.
Disappointed in herself?
No, I don't think so.
What is she upset about?
Because it wasn't as magical as she thought it was going to be. But
what we've been saying this whole time, that your first time is not going to be the magical, perfect moment that you envision it to be.
Well, it sucks. Like, things don't go in the holes the way, like, you don't know what you're doing. I'm doing visuals right now.
Stop.
And you're like, why won't it fit?
We all know how it works. You don't need to demonstrate. We've all been there.
Also, like, hymens are involved and things.
Yeah,
just like, it hurts.
Yeah. So they're like spooning, and like they kind of wake up, and he like looks at her, and she looks at him, and then she looks away, and she's like, oh God. Ugh. And then I'm like, oh God, I thought that she was going to fucking loosen up after this, but she's not. So then it cuts to the bus, because they're all supposed to be going home. And the teacher is like, everybody, like, where the fuck is Pacey and Joey? And then there's like another couple on the bus that are like making out, that look like them from the back. And so Drew is like, they're right there. And the teacher's like, all right, let's go. So they leave without them.
Well, so let me just say that episode 15 is called 4 Stories. So this episode is broken down for us pretty easily. The first story in the episode is called About Last Night, which revolves around Joey and Pacey. So this is kind of what you guys are already starting to talk about. Joey and Pacey are mistaken for being on the bus. They're not actually, so they have to figure out a way to get home. So they have time to talk about what just happened.
Yeah, and he was like, it's a funny little predicament we're in. Let's, we fucking boned last night. Let's live in the afterglow. And she's like, I fucking hate you. And so then they sit down in the lobby to eat their breakfast. And he's like, so how was it? And she was like, it was fine.
She says it was very nice.
It was nice.
And she says it, I mean, I want to give her a little credit that I thought how she described it as being very nice. It sounded sincere, but it wasn't what Pacey was expecting. Like, he thought that Joey was just going to be like, it was fireworks and it was amazing.
Transformative.
Yeah. And I was, and I loved it. And so he gets offended by the fact that she calls it nice.
But she should have been a little bit more polite, because let's just say you go over to a friend's house and they make you a cheese charcuterie board. And then they're like, hey, you ate all the fucking cheese and all the meat on the charcuterie board. And you're like, how was it? And then they go, it was nice.
It was nice.
Fucking really?
Yeah.
You devoured the entire charcuterie.
You can't be like, it was really delicious.
Yeah, you don't have to be like it was transformative, but you could be like, that was really, really great.
Yeah, it was nice. Maybe your next charcuterie board will be even better.
Yeah. Maybe it'll like fit better. I can only imagine things are gonna get even better from here.
Maybe next time you get like a different kind of cheese for your charcuterie board, because this is my favorite kind of cheese.
Yeah, and slice it the way I like it.
I like this cheese, but like I like this cheese better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But no, she didn't do that. She was like,
it was nice.
It's fine. And he was like, just nice? And she was like, yeah, what do you want me to say? I don't understand what you want from me. And gets all defensive. The whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, you know, men's egos are a little fragile. Just stroke his ego a little bit. Just, you know, you guys bone. Just tell him it was good and that you want to do it some more. Like, that's all he needs to hear. But she like
also to Joey
was not going to give it up. She
I know,
was like,
but also to Joey's defense, I mean, she was right in saying like, I have no frame of reference for this. So I don't know what else you expect me to say. I get what you're saying about stroking men's egos and stuff, but Joey is not going to stroke the ego of any man. She never has. And so like she was just kind of like asking Pacey, like, can you cut me some slack? Because I don't have, like I said, she doesn't have a frame of reference for what sex is supposed to be like. Her honest true opinion might have been like, it hurt a lot.
Well, she should have cried more during, and then he would have understood that it hurt.
It hurt a lot.
Because that's what I did.
And I didn't know what I was doing. So all I can tell you is that it was nice. And she said it was nice because she remembered that one moment in the evening where he brushed her hair off her forehead and just like, I don't know, held her close or something. And that made her feel safe and it made her feel like loved or whatever. And that's what she is taking away from this evening. Not the fact that she had a penis in her vagina and that most likely it hurt a whole hell of a lot.
yeah, but she didn't say that until later after she like softened up a little bit. Like she was,
I know. Well,
she
that's
was
what
like
I'm saying.
really defensive.
I feel like Pacey was giving her a hard time. Like, yeah, he was actually, yes, he was definitely looking for his ego to be stroked, and Joey wasn't giving that to him. And like, I'll admit, guys, I was on Joey's side. I'm like, Pacey, just ease up on her a little bit. Like, come on, you know that she's a virgin. You have 2 experiences of women before her. Like, can you understand that she might be nervous? Because she's going to ask, like, was I any good to you? Because you've had all this experience and I've had none. So, like, cut me some fucking slack, bro.
I did just find this whole conversation to be very unrealistic because my first time, it was with someone else. It was both our first time. So maybe the situation was a little different. But when we did it for the first time, there wasn't really much of a conversation the next day. There was a lot of conversation in the moment. I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, I can't get it in. And I was like, get it in. And then when he got it in, I was like, oh my God, it hurts so bad. And then I was like, is this what sex is supposed to be? And then I cried in his dorm shower. So there was not much to talk about the next day because we had the conversation during.
I'm sorry. I thoroughly enjoyed that reenactment. That was amazing.
You're welcome. The next day, probably we were like, we'll try it again.
And I kind of feel like that should have been the conversation that they had. Like, that they should just both realize that we'll do it again and it'll get better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Pacey did also ask her if he tried to ask her if she came. But in my head, I was like, you can't ask her that. Like, no, she didn't. She definitely didn't.
She definitely did
She definitely,
not. The first time?
No.
No.
Do I have to do the reenactment again? She definitely did not.
It's just so silly. Like, and that, but I mean, that's the expectation of men. I think even when you're maybe with anybody for the first time, even if it's not your first time, you know,
you just have to get comfortable.
Yeah, you're not necessarily gonna the first time. Like you gotta get into it. I don't know, unless you're, I don't know. That's my truth.
That's my truth too.
Yeah, like it's sometimes you gotta like learn each other a little bit, and then you get there. But like the first time, it's never gonna be with anybody.
Anybody.
Is
yeah,
not
because
gonna
you're in your head. You're like, do I look fat in this position?
Mm-hmm.
That's always what I'm thinking about. How fat do I look?
No, I have those same exact thoughts. No, I have those
I'm
same
not even
exact
like
thoughts.
it could be someone I'm so physically attracted to, and I've like been waiting for this moment for a long time. But then when the moment comes, I'm like, how fat do I look?
Oh,
I'm not even thinking about
exactly,
how hot or how attracted I am to the other person.
No, yeah, I've had the exact same. I'm thinking of a very specific person where like I was so excited to finally have sex with this man, and I think that like even though we had built a really really good strong sexual chemistry, I think the reason why a relationship, and to be honest, we were just like sex buddies. We weren't ever in an actual relationship. We just like had really good sex. But like the reason, and I think the reason a relationship would never have worked out is because I always had that insecurity. Like I was never ever going to be able to be fully comfortable with this man to ever like when we were having sex to not think about that.
Sometimes I still do.
To not think about like, oh my God, do I look fat? Like, you know, did I shave my bush the right way? Like,
yeah, sometimes I think about like stray hairs I may have missed.
Yeah, exactly.
When shaving, and I'm like,
yeah.
But still, now, after years of dating the same person, I'm like, what does he see? Because I never see myself from this angle. What did I miss?
But I mean, this is a whole other issue because I think women are made to feel this way by society. Most men probably are just like, yeah, I'm fucking get some.
Yeah.
Oh, I got
that's true.
I got a naked woman, like a vagina in my face.
Totally.
They don't care about a stray hair.
Also that
yeah, and they're like, I'm just gonna blast.
that in another previous relationship that that I was able to have an open conversation with my partner, and for him to tell me like, guys don't think about this stuff. Like, we're just glad that we're having sex and that you're allowing me to be inside you. Like,
that's what every dude I've ever spoken to about this stuff says the same thing.
Yeah. And that everything that a woman thinks about, do I look fat? Is this part fully shaved enough for him? Like, does he appreciate what I've done and all this stuff? Like, that's all it's in a woman's head.
God, guys are so simple. I will not just take what's offered.
No,
I
they
won't
have
either.
to fit into that fucking Magnum or you're gonna kick them out the door. God,
listen, there's a height requirement
Oh.
to ride this roller coaster.
Damn. This is only Cindy's opinion. Nobody else in the room feels
as
this
that
way.
thought entered my mind and I started to say it, I was like, what are you even saying? But then it just came out.
You're horrible.
It's coming
You're
out.
horrible, Cindy.
There's a height requirement.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Let's move. Let's go back to Dawson's Creek.
Let's move on. I mean, is there anything else to say about Pacey and Joey's situation? I mean, like,
so Joey does what she always does, where she's kind of a bitch about something, and then she storms off and like thinks about it, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm being a bitch," and then he comes and finds her and is like, "Hey, are you still being a bitch?" And she's like, "No." No, I'm not going to be in a bitch anymore. Like, it was really nice, and you did a thing with my hair, and I felt safe. And he's like, thank you. That's all I fucking needed. You could have just said that in the beginning, and then we could have avoided this whole fight.
yeah, I kind of feel like a lot of their fights, they all could have been like easily avoided with different responses from Joey.
Yes.
So now we're on to the next of the 4 stories, which is called The Big Picture. And this revolves around Dawson and Mr. Brooks. And Grams has invited Dawson back over to his house. And it's basically just all about Dawson, like, grieving the loss of Mr. Brooks.
Yeah. And while they're there, a lawyer comes in.
Oh, right.
And so the lawyer's like, I'm in charge of Mr. Brooks's estate. Maybe you can come down to my office later so we can talk. And he was like, well, about what? Did he leave me something? And he was
I'm like, Dawson, you're an idiot. He put you in the will.
Yeah. And he's like, no, you killed the guy and now you're going to get a fucking chunk of cash. So why don't you just come down to the office later and I'll tell you how much money it is.
Yeah, sure.
He's all surprised that
Dawson.
Mr. Brooks has any money. What? Why does everybody think because Mr. Brooks is single that he's also poor? Guess what? Single people are the ones with the most money.
Well, yeah. They don't have to worry about anybody else. So the next story is called Excess Baggage. And this is all about Jen. So Jen gets in trouble during the senior ski trip. She gets in trouble because she's caught by the English teacher throwing out all of her mini bottles of alcohol that she had drinking the night before. And so I don't know how this is legal, that the teacher can like send her to a therapist. But that's where she is. There's some really goofy music soundtracked throughout this portion of the episode, and I couldn't get over it.
Me either. This whole segment, I was confused the entire time. I'm like, what am I watching?
I felt like,
what is happening?
I mean,
what's with the music?
As the film person, I felt like the style of this part of the episode was different from everybody else. The way they filmed it, the music,
the editing.
Yeah,
it was like erratic.
Yeah, it was totally different, and like even I picked up on that. Like someone who typically doesn't, but I was like, this just looks completely different from every other part of this episode that we've seen.
And maybe that's why I was so confused by it. So I just didn't understand what the takeaway was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like they just had to maybe wrap up whatever Jen's punishment was from the previous episode. Like like I said,
I missed that. I don't know, maybe I was in the bathroom. I saw the mini bottle thing happen, but I didn't understand.
Well, because so she is throwing away all these bottles. She's like in her pajamas. So it's like right before she's going to get on the bus. She's throwing away all these mini bottles of liquor, and the teacher catches her, and, you know, she's able to like play it off somehow. And she rushes back into her room, and the teacher just kind of shakes his head like back and forth. But when she's at the bus getting ready to get on the bus to go back, the teacher approaches her, and he's like, says something like, or Jen says something like, okay, so what's my punishment going to be? You know, give me a heads up so I'm not surprised or whatever. And I don't remember exactly what the teacher says, but he says something like, don't worry, I have something.
Oh, I missed that little.
Yeah. He's like, I already got something in mind for you. So we'll talk about it later. And so
but
yeah,
the music was like horns, but they were like keyboard horns. It was supposed to be, it almost sounded like silly ska.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
they
ska
weren't
music.
real
That's a
horns.
good way. That's a good way to like, describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like keyboards, and it was like,
and also it was really loud. Like it wasn't supposed to be background music. It was supposed to really be leading this whole scene.
It,
and it was
didn't
just
fit
like
the tone of anything.
I
hated it.
Yes, I did too. Like I just didn't understand it. So Jen's at the therapist, and you know, a typical like TV movie thing to do is this person who's never done therapy before doesn't buy into it, and it's just like a comedy of errors throughout this whole scene. She eventually relents. Like, you know, there's one part where she's like, I'm just not into this. Like I don't think I'm cut out for therapy. Like I'm gonna leave. And then, you know, as she's trying to leave, she asks him, like, she's like, but if you were going to diagnose me, or if you were going to like sum me up, like, what would you say about me? And then the therapist rattles off exactly the type of girl that Jen is, like a broken.
That's also not how therapy works.
Yeah. Like a broken girl from a broken family who is searching for love and meaning. And, you know, she has great friends, but blah, 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 whatever the therapist says. She turns right back around, and he's like, oh, he's pegged me pretty quickly off of nothing. And she sits down and decides to give this therapy thing a try. And that was Jen's story.
Yeah. And he also said something about how she's into her gay friend Jack because of her fear of like a deep relationship with a man, or her fear of men.
Okay.
And then he's like, that's why you made out with your friend Jack.
That's a lot. There's a lot to unpack in like 15-minute therapy session. And yeah, most therapists wouldn't be like, let me tell you about you. No, any good therapist would be like, no, you tell me, and then we'll encourage you to figure you out. You're supposed to figure it out on your own, because then you have your breakthrough moment, just like your issue with your dad and then making you watch Halloween.
That's my breakthrough.
I didn't tell you that. You told you that.
I told me that. I got there.
You got there.
It only took a little encouragement, but I got there.
So that was Jen's thing. I think we can move on from that, right?
Yeah.
The fourth story is called Seems Like Old Times. So Joey and Dawson just happened to run into each other at the theater. They're both having a solo evening. Instead of having to go into a movie together, they end up going to some diner and having coffee. And the whole gist of this story, which is the final story of this particular episode, is that, I mean, just like the title says, seems like old times. It's just like the old Dawson and Joey hanging out, being friends.
There was a really cool montage.
Connecting. Yeah, really cool montage.
Of them getting coffee and laughing.
This is where Dawson reveals that Mr. Brooks has left him a whole shitload of money. And like, what is he going to do with it?
That's another thing you don't reveal. If you get like an extremely large inheritance, keep that shit to yourself. You don't blast the news to all your friends.
Yeah, don't tell people that you got money, because then they're going to start asking you for some of it.
What it finally comes down to at the very end is Dawson is like, so did anything happen on the ski trip?
Oh no! First he implied that she looked different.
Oh right, yes. While they're in the diner, he's like,
have you been through a traumatic event recently?
No, he's like, there's something. Do you have a tan?
Is there something with your hair?
Did you cut your hair? Did you dye it?
Something? There's something that looks different about you. And she's got the after sex glow.
The after first sex glow.
I think men can. It's like a pheromone thing. Like they can smell it. And they had in the beginning of the episode, Pacey and Joey had a conversation about whether they were gonna like tell anybody that they had done this.
Right.
And then he was point blank like, what if Dawson
asks you?
And she's like, well, I would just tell the truth.
Of course I would tell him. I would tell him the truth.
So then when they go to part ways, he was like, so on the ski trip, did you guys bang? He said it nicer than that, more politely than that, but
none of his business.
But he said it.
BT dubs.
And then she was like
on the verge of tears, it looked like.
And then she's like, no.
I think it was Dawson who said that. He's like, I know it's none of my business.
Yeah, that was the lead up to the question. He's like, I know I have no place asking this. I know it's none of my business, but do you guys fuck?
Well,
Rude.
I think that's the whole underlying issue, and it was brought up by Pacey, like, oh, you still have a hang up with Dawson, and like maybe
that's why you're not sleeping with me.
Yeah, or that's why you're being such a bitch about everything.
Yeah, you wanted like your first time to be with your first love.
Right, and like I think maybe she did, and Dawson did too, because he's still a virgin.
No, Joey even said it.
Melissa, you're getting so riled.
Well, I guess I'm like saying like that's what Joey said to Dawson. She's like, I always thought that my first time would be with you. I mean, so Pacey was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe she like secretly resents Pacey for not being Dawson, because then Dawson's also a virgin, and if they were both virgins, then at least they'd be an equal playing field. And she's
wait, I thought Dawson banged already.
No.
Well, he definitely got his.
Yes, he's had a blowjob. I feel like you like to bring it up every time.
Oh yeah, he did get his DS.
Yeah, and then he crashed that boat. Yes. This show is fucking insane. This show is so insane.
You say that every time too. So basically, Joey lies to Dawson.
That made me dislike her even more.
Oh yeah, I was really upset with her. I'm like, Joey, you not only have you lied to Dawson, but you've also lied to Pacey now.
Mm-hmm. I hate her.
Joey's a bitch.
She's such a bitch.
She is.
I mean,
I hated her from the very first episode I watched.
I feel like I'll always try to give Joey the benefit of the doubt, but in this particular moment, the fact that she lied to both of them like really upset me. I was like, Joey, you are a fucking bitch.
It really upset you?
Well, I was pissed.
Did you lose sleep? I lost sleep.
Did you?
Yeah.
And so that's how the episode ends. They part ways with Joey being a fucking lying hoe.
Typical.
Bitch. So we've got episodes 16, 17, and 18. Guys, we are blowing through season 4. I know it doesn't feel like it, but we're almost done.
But we can't watch it on Netflix anymore.
Oh, that's right. Breaking.
Yeah, this is an anti-plug for Netflix.
They just secured the rights to Paula Cole's song, and now as of the night we're recording this on April 30th, this is the last night that we can watch Netflix. I mean, we can watch
Netflix on Dawson's Creek.
This is the last night we can watch Dawson's Creek on Netflix. And I just don't understand the logic. Why they would fight so hard to only get the rights to Paula Cole's song, to only be on Netflix.
Well, it's because they don't want to wait for their lives to be over. They want to get the rights to the song before the show goes out of syndication or whatever. I don't want to wait for the show to be over. I need to have the rights. What will it be?
Nice.
Thanks.
All right, ladies. Good show tonight. We'll be back next week. Again, like I said, episodes 16, 17, and 18, season 4. What's gonna happen? Oh my God. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.